This is Happy Monkey.
This is Happy Monkey.
Happy Monkey. Happy Monkey.
This is Happy Monkey.
Hello, no one is available to take your call. Please leave a message after the tone.
Happy Monkey is the future. 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 Sincerely, INCOGVMO. Kobe.
Yes, everybody. So yeah, man, we want to talk about the little first road trip we took as a squad in 10.
When Happy Monkey hit the road and took their talents to New England, Boston.
Yeah, man, for the NCIA conference, right?
Yes, that's
was.
exactly what it was.
We fucking took our asses in the hoopty, man, and we drove the team up there to Boston. Some of them got there in the bus. Shout out to the whole team, Gender Problem, I Am Black Rose, Ralph, David, Tech King, everybody who, took their time out of their lives and came up to the conference and represented for the Happy Monkey team.
And we hit up the first Canada that they ever had up there.
In Boston, Canada. We went to the Boston to the first ever Canada. We made it a little late, in Happy Monkey fashion, I guess. But
it was really good to see what all the different situations going on in the cannabis industry up in New England. From there's a lot of craft growers in Maine, Massachusetts.
I didn't know
Rhode Island.
Yeah, I didn't know that in Boston didn't have many dispensaries at all.
Yes, they do not.
I didn't know that. That was crazy. So we learned a lot about that. The team got to experience the whole conference thing because not everybody got to go to all the conferences that me, you, and David get to go. So this was the first time that everybody experienced that.
Yeah, and it was the first time us testing 7, 8 of us traveling and seeing how we all operate together, on the road and
in one house. The real world
Happy
Happy Monkey.
Real world Happy Monkey.
It was crazy, but it was good, man. And we had a launch of our website officially, man. www.happymonkeywithyou.com. Everybody, make sure you follow that and go see what's going on. Keep current. Keep history, keep present. We got it all right there. Everything that got to do with Happy Monkey is on our website. Go shop, spend your money. See what's up with David over there. We got signed a little bit of my man, my nigga Ralph. We gonna have to end up calling him Silent Ralph from now on. Everybody here in the team, Rose, Jen, like I said, everybody that's in the team that's been helping us. If you want to see something about them, it's on the website. You could go see our Happy Monkey TV, the YouTube, all our links. You can see it on there. Monkey Sessions on the good shit. The podcast, you could definitely catch the podcast on the website, right, my brother?
Yes. I'm going to be honest, man. I was surprised up there. They broke all the stereotypes as far as Massachusetts and New England people, what they say, because they showed us so much love out there.
Mad love.
Everybody, was really showed us a lot of love and really embraced us. So shout out to everybody in the cannabis industry up there in New England.
Yeah, in New England, because we met a lot of interesting people, not only from Boston. It was Boston, different parts of Massachusetts, Maine, Rhode Island. New Hampshire, it was everybody that was trying to, get a pulse on what's going on, right?
Exactly, yeah. So they really let us know they got a lot of craft cannabis stuff going on up there, and in the convention, the coolest thing I saw, they had this bus that was like tricked out. That was like a mobile dispensary.
Yeah, that was fire. What was the name of that bus,
fire.
man? What was it?
Enlighten.io.
Enlighten.io. Shout out to them. That shit was pimped
crazy.
out.
Yeah, it was super pimped out. I ain't gonna lie. I was down to smoking there. They lucky we was on the floor. You know what I mean? Like, but that was a real fly. That was a fly look. I'm not gonna lie. Definitely not gonna lie. What else can we say, man? This shit was dope, man.
And then I attended the Canavest one day.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like an investment conference and stuff, and they kind of broke down a lot of information about what's the current state of the cannabis industry, how there's not a lot of investment coming in right now because, stocks are so down and all these different things. So it was really, educational and enlightening, and we had to show New England the Happy Monkey vibe. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it seemed
man.
like they were really receptive to it, and we'll be coming soon to a town near you before you know it, everybody out there.
Absolutely. The Happy Monkey Creative Agency is coming to you very soon, everybody. We'll be providing all sorts of hospitality media and just vibes, like we said, man. We coming. New England, everybody, shout out to the dudes in Maine. They are growing the fire,
They got the
super
murder one up
fire.
there.
I ain't gonna lie.
They got that.
They are like, so basically after the conferences, obviously we in a recreational state, so everybody's showing off what they got, and it was crazy. The Maine guys got some fire, I'm not gonna lie.
Shout out to everybody that pulled up to the after party we had for our website launch.
Absolutely.
And came and showed love and signed the board and everything.
Yeah, that was cool as shit, man.
Thank you guys for supporting and showing love to us and attending, man. It was a really cool vibe up there.
I'm not gonna lie, I was super surprised. We seen all sorts of people pull up. It was like literally like the good old white folks with the ties and the shoes, but the crazy white folks like my man Long Baltimore tatted up, crazy. It was all crazy. Then it was us there. It's like we said, man, we bring the culture and corporate everywhere we go.
The cannabis is the great equalizer. When you add some official vibes, everybody leaves their egos at the door and everybody just vibes out, smokes, and, lives their best life.
Yeah, man, that shit was a great vibe, and I think everybody had a really, really good time. And I think it was cool to see everybody operate in a different environment and watch everybody kind of like excel and like step up to the plate as far as like the Happy Monkey team. You know what I mean? Like, it was crazy.
Yeah, man. Look out for those pictures and those videos of that trip, man. That was definitely one for the books, man. And it just showed that, we're ready to take this show on the road to a lot of different cities and a lot of recreational markets and show, definitely show people a little bit of taste of the vibe, So look out for us.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. So shout out to the New England area, everybody. We can't stress this enough. It was very, very welcoming, and we definitely coming back just on the regular because, I think we should just be showing up because it's right there. It's very close by. It's like we said, it's very recreational. So everybody is straight up smoking it up in the New England area, especially in Boston, let me tell you. So that was a good time. Everybody stay tuned. Theater near you, like my man like this thing over here.
Yes, man. So shout out to everybody from New England. Thank you for all the love. Look out for us coming to a city near you with our events and our product launches and all our different things. Stay tuned at HappyMunkey.com. Peace, love, and happiness to everybody out there.
Peace.
Welcome to the Happy Monkey Boulevard.
What's up,
Ladies and gentlemen, we have some very special guests today. They just happen to be some Harlem natives like ourselves.
Just so happens to be.
We have our brother Julio Casado, CEO of PIF, Plant Inspired
Future.
Plant Inspired Future. So
PIF.
be on the lookout for that. We have his counterpart, Mr. Landon Dyers, Chief Strategist Officer of PIF.
and ex-political director of MedMen and so many more things. Welcome to the Boulevard,
Absolutely. We got some
everybody.
professionals up in here today, y'all.
Thank you for having us.
We ain't got the regular Harlem motherfuckers up in here. We got the nice professional motherfuckers that's representing out here in the cannabis industry. Everybody, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Landon, please reintroduce yourself and let everybody know who you are, where they can find you, and what you do.
Hey guys, first and foremost, thank you for having me and Julio up here. You know, you guys are part of the culture, and we appreciate what Happy Monkey is about. And being all native New Yorkers is rare sometimes that you have nothing but native New Yorkers,
Especially in this industry.
right in this room, of color at that too.
Absolutely.
It's another big thing, man.
So
Absolutely.
you know, I'm proud to be up here. So like I said, Landon Days. I'm from New York, originally from Harlem, also representing Mount Vernon, but I live in the South Bronx now. Went to Morehouse College and I went to law school, do a couple other things. So before PIF, I was at MedMen. Actually, before MedMen, I was the political director for the Marijuana Policy Project, and I worked on the PTSD bill, medical marijuana expansion. Then I came over to MedMen. I got recruited by Adam and Morgan. That was dope. I was there for a minute, did compliance and political work, and then I became the national director of partnerships. And then an opportunity came up. Met with Julio and Marvis, who's our COO of the company. Marvis from Detroit, and they said, "Listen, man, we know this industry is not easy, but we think with your skill set and what we're doing, you know, we have something here." So PIF has a hemp processing license in New York, and we have a cultivation, medical marijuana cultivation license in Michigan, right outside of Flint. So to me, it connected. You got Flint, Michigan, you know, a black, large black populations which have been disenfranchised. Absolutely. New York, large black and Latino populations that have been disenfranchised from the war on drugs. Mm-hmm. So to me, PIF tells a story. And I think telling the story is going to be key in this industry, and that's why I joined us. And then, you know, Julio sold me on it, and now we're just trying to make the dream live. And as you know, that's not the easiest thing in the world to do, but we're grinding.
Man.
Absolutely. Mr. Julio, yourself, please introduce yourself. Tell us where we can find you and what you do in PIF and all the good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So Julio, like you said, so I was actually born in La República. I was born in La Capital.
Okay, our native brother.
Dominican brother
Okay,
in the
our
building.
native.
I
Okay.
came here, I was about 4 years old when I immigrated and grew up here in New York, grew up in Harlem, over in the Polo Grounds. My career did not start in cannabis. Actually, this is my first foray into the cannabis industry on the business side. My background is in marketing. I have done a variety of different things, as well as recently launched my own marketing agency, which I've grown with my partners over on that side. And myself and Marvis, who we went to college together, you know, we were talking a lot about cannabis, right? Being people who used it, being people who were impacting a lot of different ways, whether personally or our family members who were impacted, unfortunately, by the criminal justice system. And we felt like, listen, we're ambitious guys. We've done a lot with our careers. If there's an opportunity here, we need to make a play. And so we started doing a lot of research, speaking to a lot of people. Thankfully, that actually got us in contact with Landon. You know, cannabis, I think, is probably the most political industry I've ever seen. And mind you, I started my career in aerospace and defense. There are entire companies that are propped up in that industry due to government contracts. And I think cannabis is more political than that. So meeting someone like Landon,
Right,
who understands the ins and outs of politics, both on the cannabis side as well as in New York specifically, was like an eye-opener for us. And I think that we just ran the table from there. We said, let's form the company. Let's make it happen. Let's start building. Let's build. You know, we got the hemp processing license. We're building a cultivation facility out in Flint. And for us, sky's the limit.
I respect that, man. I respect that, especially you guys. Like I said, we don't meet a lot of people in this industry with some sort of professional background in general. You know, because you got to have some sort of, like we talked about it in our first episode, bringing your talent from something else is important in this industry. You know what I mean? You can't just, all right, you necessarily don't have to have a whole cannabis background, but you have marketing, right?
Right.
So you bring that profession to cannabis, which is going to help Mr. Landon over here, right? Pretty much, right?
Yep.
Help me and help the rest of us, because you know what's marketing. This industry is going to need marketing as well.
It's going to need brands.
It's going to need brands.
Brands like HappyMunkey, right? People that you hear it and you just associate an experience with it. And I think that that's going to be a really big part of how cannabis grows.
And that's part of what we try to do here. That's why it's great to have, people that look like us on the professional level, especially that come from the same places like we do, because we feel, and that's part of what we're trying to do here with the podcast, the biggest divide in the industry is the corporate and the culture in cannabis. I feel like they're totally isolated away from each other. And to have an optimal, healthy industry, they're going to have to find the happy medium, or it's not going to be fully optimal. And that's what we try to do here. We try to get people from the culture and get people from the corporate, so like that they can learn about each other and find a happy medium in order for the industry to thrive, because I think they're both very imperative to the industry maximizing its potential.
Yeah.
And it's funny how me and Landon, man, I don't know if you know this.
No.
So me and Landon, man, we probably had seen each other briefly, but when we really clicked was we both spoke at the Source 360 presentation. And that's when we really clicked, and that's how our relationship started.
No, and that was me coming from kind of the corporate cannabis world, which you were just mentioning, and transitioning into more, I guess, the cultural cannabis world to a degree. So it was eye-opening in some instances. It also shows some of my fears of who's gonna get pushed out and who's gonna make it. Like we know everyone's not gonna make it.
No,
that's
for sure. Nobody's. No.
And that is gonna be a good thing. It's a bad thing mostly, because we want to regulate the system. We want to make it. We want to make it a fair system. We want to make it a safe system. We've seen the vaping issues and things like that. We want to make sure what we're using is the most natural,
Correct.
And that's what we're big on. All of our, right now, our hottest market is our CBD teas. It's all organic. Our COAs for our hemp is, no pesticides, no herbicides. But, it's so I want to see a healthier system, right? One thing I never thought about when I smoked when I was younger. Whoever grew my marijuana, did they use pesticides or herbicides?
We didn't think about it.
Did they check for mold?
Yeah,
did they check for fungus? Did they check for dry? All the different things now as we in the industry.
Yeah.
We weren't educated back then.
So educating the masses on that, because listen, it's still something that you have to handle with care, right? You can't. I don't want people. My biggest fear is I don't want people to be flagrant with it. suddenly and then giving it a bad name like alcohol. Like it should be responsible, use it in a responsible manner, and it's really a cool product.
Agreed.
But there's gonna be some assholes who are gonna do something and mess it up. Oh, I'm gonna eat 5 brownies, at 20 milligrams a piece.
And they'll still be okay. They'll just sleep for a couple of days.
I mean, right? Compared to drinking too much alcohol, absolutely.
For sure.
However, you you're going to see the New York Post putting the first story up.
Of course.
When somebody, because you see with the bail reform now, they don't talk about how many innocent people are getting out of prison. They only talk about the couple minority, couple 1 or 2 situations where someone got rearrested. Yeah. So that's my only thing. So I think education.
We got to control the narrative so they don't use the propaganda against us.
And I think it's really cool that you brought that up, because I see headlines now every day. This crime was committed by someone who was released because of the new bail law. And you can tell that there's an agenda behind why they're putting out these headlines. And it's only a matter of time until cannabis headlines start coming out. And it's because of cannabis, this happened.
Car accidents. It's gonna be car accidents. And
they're gonna blame it on weed.
They are, because the cops are gonna say, but the reality is I spoke at a panel. Senator Todd Kaminsky, and he's in Long Island. He's a very key senator in this, because Long Island is very 50-50 on this.
They're not shaky.
But what I can tell you, I went to law school in Long Island. My law firm's in Long Island. They smoke weed in Long Island.
You're also a lawyer, right, Landon?
Smoke weed
I am a lawyer. I'm a lawyer at Fort Shelley, Deegan,
because Happy Monkey World needs to know all your accolades. Come on.
That's a big one to skip.
Yeah.
I'm an attorney. I'm of counsel at Fort Shelley, Deegan, Terrena, and we actually have a cannabis practice. Danielle Terrena who actually works in the hemp field herself. Her family has hemp, so we're building that out. I'm just of counsel, but they're building that out. But yeah, but back on Long Island though, at Nassau County chief of police was there, and they used these stats from Colorado and Washington about how car accidents went up after legalization. But what they didn't talk about was, what also people were using at that time? Cell phones, social media, filming themselves, driving and texting.
Cherry pick.
They didn't talk about how a lot of the people, when they were tested, actually was testing more for opioids or multiple pharmaceuticals. And also, we also know with marijuana, like if you get into a car accident tomorrow, but you smoked today or 2 days ago, and they test your system, it's still going to come up positive. So that doesn't necessarily mean you were impaired at the time. Nonetheless, I think where Happy Monkey comes in and we can come in, the culture, I'm the first person to admit, if I'm drinking, I am very cognizant and I won't get in my car. But when you smoke, even though it might be time down the road, I think people are a little bit more likely to say, oh, I'm fine, I'm good. Yeah. So I think we do need to educate and start PSAs like, yo, don't smoke and drive. Like if you're using weed, take a Uber, take a Lyft or whatever. I think making partnerships with Lyft and Uber to a place like Happy Monkey makes sense so people aren't driving in intoxication, and that helps protect our industry.
No, 1,000%. And we also know that's part of what we try to do to the best of our ability is that the number one reason that a lot of our people might get left out is the lack of information and education, which is not readily available. And you know what I mean? That's why we try as much as possible to have people like you guys, people from the corporate regulators, anybody we can, to explain to people, especially here in New York where there's really not too much information about what's going on in cannabis, so that people could stand a fair chance. Because if you don't have the information and you don't really know the current status of the cannabis industry as far as regulatory or corporate, how could you even stand a chance at all, you know?
Facts.
Yeah, but I tell people, as a bit of a counterpoint to that, I also tell people you know more than you think. You know, from the perspective of actually building a business in this space, in any space requires really knowing the product, understanding why people love it, how people experience it, and how to bring that experience to more people. I think that something that's lost on the corporate side is just the background of coming from communities that use the product, that care about it. You know, it's in our music, it's in our culture, it's in our movies. Like, we know why we love this, right? And a big thing I was sharing earlier, a big thing about our products, for example, is we focus in on the flower, right? We're not doing the tinctures, we're not doing the oils, and that's not passing a judgment call. It's just the flower is what we love, is what we grew up with, and that's the experience that we want to bring from our company. So I think that, you know, people who are interested in getting into space, where you need to be educated is, like you said, the regulations, the politics, the laws, understand where you can get in. But trust that you know from a business perspective what it takes to be successful in this industry, because quite frankly, you have more experience with cannabis than I say probably most of the people who are running and built these large corporations.
Right.
And that's the scary part. But he's right. I've seen it firsthand. You know, being usually the only person of color in the room. Usually people came from different skill sets. But if you look at MedMen, Adam and Andrew. Andrew was the president of MedMen, was an artist, but he took his skill set as an artist to help create the very modern, futuristic, clean, red and white. That was Andrew's thing. Adam actually, I think it's interesting about Adam. Adam doesn't tell. I think Adam should tell this story a little bit more. I think people would gravitate a little bit more to him. He was a former minor league baseball player. So that's what he wanted to do, but he just didn't make it. So he always tells to the worker, he tells a story about how he was down to his last check, like money in his bank account. He had to make a decision, pay rent or literally buy some marijuana, right? And what he basically had, he had like a caregiver's license, or he had someone else's caregiver's license, and he was literally transporting marijuana, and that's why he got his first cash flow. Now, on the flip side of that, to Julio's point, where Adam sometimes had a blind spot for his privilege was when he was driving his Prius around with just a caregiver's license with pounds of marijuana in the back of his car. He wasn't worried about LAPD pulling him over.
Not at all.
He wasn't worried about them stopping him and him.
He probably didn't think about that. He wasn't thinking about that.
He was thinking about being deported.
No, he wasn't thinking about getting deported.
Yeah,
absolutely not.
He had the complexion for the protection, like my boy Paul Mooney says.
That is a great line.
So I think I tried to get to him. on that. I was like, listen, you know, you have to understand, like, yo, what you built was amazing.
Absolutely.
I'm taking nothing away from you, Adam. You built this amazing, even though they might be having the trouble right now, to get where he was to where they have right now is a dream for most people in this industry, right? But he also needs to understand is that you had this privilege that you didn't have to worry about LAPD dragging you down to county court, whereas if one of us were doing it, our hands would be sweaty, our palms, we'd be shaking
The whole time
because we know all it takes is one slip. Sometimes we just been more lucky than good, and just getting through of what we've done, in our lives. I've been stopped and frisked in my life. I'm sure all of us have been stopped and frisked here.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So
Stopped, frisked, and arrested for consuming cannabis.
Exactly.
Put through the system.
Exactly.
There you go.
So I've been blessed. I never went through the system. I've been stopped and frisked. When I've never been through the system, but I'm blessed in that, or I'm lucky.
It's luck, man.
It is luck.
How many times have you walked around with a joint in your pocket, and it's just luck sometimes that you didn't get stopped?
I want to touch base on the name that you guys chose of your company because it's funny. Our last guest, we haven't released his episode yet, was a good friend of ours. That's big in the cannabis culture. His name is Shice Bub. And the first time I heard that word piff was probably like 15 years ago in his house smoking. That's like some Harlem culture stuff. So for you guys to flip it into something positive, you know what I mean? Plant-inspired future. How did that come about?
So before we tell the story about how it came about, I do want to harp on that. It really is Harlem culture, Harlem lingo. Because when I travel the country and talk to other people and I just say like, hey, do you know what PIF stands for? What else PIF stands for? They actually don't know. Like that's what I love about it so much. It's like it really is from Harlem,
It's some uptown shit.
Yeah, man. Yeah. But in terms of, we were just thinking a lot about different names. And I remember you wrote one kind of like 3-word monogram and it just started, mind you, this is after like 2 hours. Some point,
you guys whiteboarding and just
whiteboarding. We were definitely yelling at each other at different points. Like, nah, man, we're not going that direction. Going back and forth. I don't remember what the first iteration of it was. I don't know if you remember, but you wrote 3 words, and then we just kept going with 3 words. Bam, 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 bam,
also,
bam, bam.
I want to know how long has it been since you guys formed your company and you actually launched?
So the original version was actually called Cannaback, and it started with the idea of cannabis gives back. And that's what we used to get the hemp processing license here in the state. That actually started about last May. Us getting to PIF actually came about, I would say, October of last year, and we launched our first products in November.
Nice.
So we're about approaching a year. And mind you, I think one of the main reasons why we were even able to move that fast is because it really took all 3 of us to give everything that we know from what we've learned elsewhere to try to move this forward. So we've been really blessed from that perspective. But PIF has been around since October of last year.
Great, man. I really like the way you guys turned something from the culture into something positive for the industry. I really like that.
Because I'm gonna keep it real. There's a lot of people even in other industries, they'll take the name from something that's happening from the culture and make it their own. Where in this instance, at least their own is making the word something. You know what I mean? Like
you guys are embracing that it's from Harlem and all that stuff. So
yeah, man.
I mean, no, listen, it definitely was an iteration, and we finally got to it, and it just clicked. It was just one of those things we were looking at, and I was just like, that works for me. Like it works.
I like it. That's why I mentioned.
Because I think I fought back on the Cannaback because I was new, and we were talking about different ones, and. You know what it was? I wanted to stay away from Canna because sometimes you're opening bank accounts and things like that.
And that actually happened to us. We got all of our insurance that we were applying to got denied
Those
simply for having
murky
Canna.
waters.
those are murky waters.
Anything
you add 420 to, Canna to,
you're done.
Marry to.
So that's what kind of started. That's what kind of got it going. I was like, yo, guys, listen. We got to get away from the Canna. Like, let's come. We can come up with a product underneath that line, but we need our incorporation needs to be something different, and that was a negotiation. And then we whiteboarded and it came through. But sometimes when you know, you know what I mean.
That's it.
It's like
when it hit PIF, we were all kind of like,
right.
oh, that's it. Yeah.
And then with Julio's marketing background, he really put together the logo, and then I pushed on the color, like I wanted tan and white. I thought it was just something that worked. It was simple, but he put together the font and all that. So we had to make sure we lock up all that stuff, which we've done. And but what I like about it though, it's just clean, simple, organic, natural.
That's it.
And if you
That's
look
what
at
works.
yeah, man,
there's a saying that growers have been and people have been using forever, and it's so overlooked and it's so effective. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy how you look at the most successful things are the simple things.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everybody that overcomplicate things and never goes too far.
And we want Piff to stand up front. Like, if you look at how our teas are packaged, like, that's how much, like, the word Piff means to us. Like, Piff is big and is right there. Yes, you know, what's in the teas, all of that matters, but we want you to connect with the brand, and we want you to connect to the name. And we wanted to get out there that it came from Harlem. You know, I was surprised when people didn't know you can refer to weed as Piff in other places, because I thought that was like standard language everywhere. Like, if you just knew hip hop, I thought that, you know, because like Dipset, right? They refer to it as Piff all the time, like every single song. So I thought that was just standard language. So I'm really proud
and it's
to be
funny
representing
because
it.
the gentleman I just mentioned that we interviewed last week, he's really close to that camp.
Yeah,
And that's why. Like, I mean, that's some Harlem stuff. That's what I was mentioning. Now we gotta ask you guys something about the culture a little bit. That we ask everybody that comes here. Julio and Landon, I guess you start first, Julio. What was your first encounter with cannabis, and walk us through that?
Yeah.
When was the first time you got high, my brother? Was it a joint, a blunt, a bong? Where was it?
It was definitely a blunt. Definitely a blunt. And we were talking about this earlier, right? I grew up and hung out with a lot of people in like high school who smoked, but I never smoked because I was in a Dominican household and I couldn't take. Coming home high was not an option for me.
People don't know about the stigmas in the Caribbean.
Nah. So the first time I smoked was actually in college, right? And it was a blunt, man. You know, blunts is all people rolled, right? Like, I just really started getting into joints and papers and that kind of stuff. Like, and people were passing it around. We were in, you know, around the dorm room because you couldn't smoke inside the dorm room. So we were around the dorm room. And I was like, look, some of like my best friends that I've always known have smoked weed. I was like, I'm ready to make that happen for myself. You know, I'm outside. I don't have to worry about going home. I smoked and it was a great experience. You know, it was relaxing. It was one of the first times that I got very introspective. And I think that's, you know, people may say like, oh, of course you get. But like, if you've never smoked before, you don't really know the level of introspectiveness that you get when you smoke.
Right.
So it was a really, really good feeling. And that actually started my journey with cannabis. I've always felt like a latecomer to cannabis. And it wasn't actually until very recently where I've become more of a, like, it's more part of my
We like to call it now, you're a frequent flyer.
I'm a frequent flyer,
getting
right.
higher.
I'm a frequent flyer. But it's been a really great transition. I was definitely more of a heavy drinker back then as well. And I've transitioned out of that. And cannabis helped me make that transition as well, which I think is just healthier. It's been better for my mental health. It's been better for my relationships. Definitely for my pockets. So yeah, it's been a great journey, man.
So you smoke with some friends? Did you smoke with like a girl? Did a girl make you smoke?
Nah, I was definitely with friends at that point. My boy rolled, and that was my boy all 4 years of high school. We ended up living together at the end as well, and he was the dude. He always had weed on him. He always had weed on him. He always had
one of
Phillies.
those guys in the crew.
He always had blunts on him. He was always rolling. And like when we had parties together, I would get the alcohol. He would bring the weed, and that was the party. You know, so like I always smoked with him. And yeah, we just had a little crew, man. When we just passed it around, and that was it.
Now, Mr. Landon, tell us about your love story with cannabis.
So it's actually quite similar. I was an athlete most of my life. Football, track.
Renaissance man, you do it all. Law, politics.
I still play football.
Athletics.
I still play football on Saturdays, but I was an athlete. I varsity I varsity in 4 sports. My senior year I was track, football, volleyball, 2 different tracks actually. So I was always an athlete. So I really didn't smoke in high school. So I didn't smoke until I tore my knee up. I tore my ACL, MCL, meniscus, cartilage in my left knee twice. So I didn't play football when I got to college. I made a team, but my leg just wasn't holding up. So it was my freshman year, Whitehall. I won't say his whole name. My man Jay. I just call him Jay. Dude from the South, man. He was deep in the South, man. He had this. He has this Mississippi twang, man. It's funny. It's funny because he hit me up today, actually. Just like, yo, man, love what you're doing, man. Like, you know, let's talk. You know, because it might, you know, medical might be coming to Georgia. So we were just talking about what's going on in Georgia. So I used to smell it from smoke. He used to smoke in his dorm room out the window. I used to smell it. I was like, I ain't gonna do it. And then I was like, you know, I'm gonna try it. So we didn't smoke inside. I was too shook to smoke inside the dorm. So we walked outside to the quad and we smoked. And
Was it a joint, a blunt?
it was a blunt. He always at that time he always did Swisher Sweets.
Swisher Sweets.
Sweets.
But out to this day, I'll say this: I can roll a good blunt. No one can roll a blunt tighter than him. Like I've never he rolls baseball bats.
You always got one of
It's
those.
always,
You know, like
It's an art.
That's an art.
Yeah.
He's a wizard with it. I can't.
Yeah,
Yes,
we got a J in our squad too. He
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
He rolls cannons and shit.
yeah, it's just like yo, how like it's almost too tight sometimes. Like, I mean, but it burnt so slow. That and he used to do green optimals inside out. So that was like the people,
Oh yeah, he's a roller.
Yeah, it's funny how people have because one thing about going to school, where I went to school in Morehouse in Atlanta, Georgia. It's people from all over the country go to Morehouse, right?
Morehouse.
From all over. So you had the Cali dudes, the Washington dudes, the DC, and it was funny to see the different raps and what you use. And you guys still Dutchess? Oh, we don't use no Dutchess. Like it was funny.
People don't know that somebody was saying that the other day. I was watching this comedian that basically that's why it's called the United States, because it's like every state is like its own country.
It really is.
Man. Yeah.
Its own culture, own perspective, own slang, own everything.
Food, whatever.
And so you saw all of that firsthand while you were in Morehouse.
But just even on the marijuana, what you call it piff. You call it piff. They don't call it piff. Some people call it Buddha, green. You know what I mean?
All sorts of shit.
Yeah.
So the part
Chronic.
that I remember the most though, because sometimes people don't get high that first time, but I did. And what I remember from it, do you remember the scene in The Matrix when he touches the mirror?
Yes.
And the mirror starts climbing up his arm.
You took the blue pill.
So when I hit it, I just remember I just felt like it hit in my system because I was legitimately pure. I didn't drink. I didn't do anything.
Oh, so you was super sober.
You know what I mean? So that was the first time really ever. I think I've had a beer maybe with my parents or whatever. Like he had tasted beer, but I was like, yo, what is this? And then so that was my first. That was definitely my first time experiencing the marijuana.
That's it. So you pretty much fell into the Matrix, and it opened up your mind, and it was on after that, pretty much.
It was, but at the same time, though, it was a moment that I remember.
Right.
You know, it's something that I will always,
Yes.
to this day with Jay, I remember that it was me and him, and we were chilling, walking outside, and that was my first experience.
Most people vividly remember their first experience of getting high. So that's why we asked, when was the first time you're getting high? Because like you said, some people don't get high the first time. So when was your first time you get high? And they vividly remember, whether, like you just said, you gave us details of a time that, that
I remember it.
So
I remember.
So it's like, a lot of the stigmas are being broken just by you saying that, and a lot of people telling us their situations, like you're supposed to be a stoner and forget a bunch of shit. But
You know what I've always found interesting is like people's first experiences or just general experiences with smoking is always with someone else, right? It's always around people. It always feels like a fun and safe environment. And it never goes too far, right?
And it creates really good bonds.
Creates
Because
friendships,
he
man.
just really sunk in when we mentioned it about his friend that he built a bond with from Mississippi. Where you said he was from? Mississippi. You get what I'm trying to say? So that was part of what helped you guys build a great bond to this day.
And he was like the first dude I ever really met from Mississippi. I mean, deep Mississippi drawl. Like, just like sometimes you had to like, wait, what you say? And like you had to really listen. And I probably talked too fast for him as a New Yorker. But he was also, when I got to know him, like he might have talked slow and this, but he was also a super smart dude.
Real
And then
intelligent,
he's a whiz with math. And but what I love about too, he's a supporter of what I'm doing. Like he loves what I'm doing. Like he just hit me up when I was like, yo, we don't talk all the time, but it's one of those people's like he's always
he's
gonna
a
be
real friend.
He's
Yeah.
people's.
Yeah.
So he was just like, yo, I love what you're doing. Yo, let's chat, man. I might be able to find some capital. Like he's just like everyone trying to figure out some way to slide into this industry in some format. So that was my experience. And
when did you become a frequent flyer, Landon? After that, when did you get into it more?
Definitely college. Probably my apex was probably right when I came back to New York. When I had my own apartment and back in Harlem, I was on 117th Street. You know what I mean? Like that's when I probably, was using the most. But the irony of it all though, I think now that I'm in the industry, I actually probably use the least now. I mean, I still do. But I probably use the least now than I did when I did 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
The irony.
It is, but you know what it is too? I know what I like now too. Like back when I first started smoking, I didn't
just
know
smoking.
sativa.
Nah,
I
it's
didn't
just
know
what
it.
they
I
put
didn't
in
know
front of you,
indica.
right?
Smoke what they put in front
Everything
of you,
was
right?
haze. I got
Right.
that haze, fam.
Haze,
and if
that's
you were in
it.
Atlanta, yo, they had dirt and mid and hydro. That's all you. That was the three choices. So now that I actually know what I like I'm a sativa fan. I like sativa. That's what I'm a sativa dude. I like indica for one thing and one thing only, and that's if I'm with my lady. You know what I mean? But sativa is I can take a couple of hits and I can work. I can
Still be
read.
productive.
Absolutely.
You know, so I didn't know that when I was younger. And that goes to what Julio said. We still need to educate.
Yes, sir.
Even
Yeah.
the people who think they know weed.
Yeah, they
don't know.
Yeah, no.
So I thought I knew everything that had to be offered, and then I started traveling and going to
There you
dispensaries,
go. That's
and
what
I'm
changes
like,
everything right
oh
there.
man,
That's
there's
what
so
changes
much
everything.
new stuff
Absolutely.
to learn and experience. I think I've started smoking more just because I'm so excited to try everything, like, and just have those new experiences, you know.
But I think I'm the opposite though. Like, I know exactly what type of what I want. Like, I don't like to be too high. Like, I definitely
No, you like the function.
I like the function.
Like most New Yorkers, not for nothing, most New Yorkers, they don't understand that they liked haze so much because it was just that. It
Right.
was just you were able to smoke and
Yeah.
keep going.
and that's a New York thing.
They
Where I can
like
see
sour
where-
so much for the same reason.
Where
Yeah.
dudes down south, I can see where they want like an indica where they can
Yeah,
because
they
it's
chilling because they
slower
yes,
and it's
yeah.
chill.
That's why they
They
like
got all day.
OGs.
They got all day.
Yeah, and you know, I never thought about that, and that
Yeah.
makes 100% sense. So I think the one thing I learned from that, like I don't like dabbing, and
Yeah, that's too hard for me.
because it just
I haven't tried it, but I don't think it's for me.
it just hits so hard.
That's why it doesn't
Yeah, it's so
take
hard
off
for
that
me.
much in big cities like New York because it's so fast paced.
Well,
you
I
can't
wouldn't
be
say
dabbed up.
that. I would say more for like us and like the older crowd because the youth right now are dabbing.
They're
crazy.
dabbing hard.
They're
Yeah.
dabbing, and they dab sativas and stuff like that too. But for us, I think it's more of a like it's too much to set up. I think it reminds you of like crack and
Yes.
stuff. You know
Yeah,
what
no,
I mean?
that's a fact.
Let's be real. It should remind you of you hitting the pipe, and we're
There's
from that
something
old
about
school, so we
when
know.
it's something about hitting glass where I'm just like,
Yeah, because I don't really either hit bongs either too much. So it's like
Oh.
it's that thing, all these things, right?
I
For the
used
dab.
to.
So,
I used to hit the bongs.
I was
but-
gonna say, you know, everyone remembers their first time smoking. I also remember my first time I got really high, and that's because somebody gave me a gravity bomb,
Whoa.
one of those water 2-liter things. I don't ever want to be that high again.
You see, that's
Like, for
another
real.
thing. Our community only really knew about those strains when they came out. So
I think that was all that was here for
Yeah.
us as well in a lot of ways, you know.
you know, so we had the Jamaicans gave us the chocolate tie, the
Yeah.
dirt, and all this different Hawaiian, and all
Very
this stuff,
oily.
right? All these different old school weeds, and then the hydro started coming out, the haze and the sours and all that stuff. That was our community, but in the other communities, they were already reaching the different type of strains from California and all these other things that we weren't really ready, or at least we weren't seeing yet. Because
in our community, but if
Yes,
you
in our community.
I went to Catholic school, and so in the suburbs, they had a little bit better Ithaca, where he went to Cornell. Some of
Right.
the best marijuana grown in New York comes from that region. Because
Oh,
think about
man.
it, they grow grapes. It's an agricultural area. So you had dudes who had plots of land, and they were growing because no one was checking for them, right?
Right.
So
And also they understood the actual science behind the agriculture, which I think is really interesting, and that's something that's being introduced to everyone. It's a plant. You know, this isn't a product that you make in
No.
a factory. This is a plant. It's a living thing that you have to grow. It takes care. And I think the more care that you put in growing it, the better it just is as an experience, honestly.
Absolutely.
We also want to touch base since you guys are Harlem natives. Want to start with you, Julio. What was it like growing up in Harlem, and how did that play a role in who you are today?
Man, I loved growing up in Harlem. You know, I attribute so much of who I am to it. Like my love for basketball. I grew up across the street from Rucker Park.
Yeah.
You know, like
Polo grounds,
Yeah,
baby.
man.
Yeah.
Legendary.
like Kobe
Yeah.
came through the play there. Kevin Durant, LeBron, like everyone came through the play there, right?
Yeah, that's down the hill from us. You know what I mean? We call that down the hill. Y'all call us up the hill.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I'm
Up
from
those
Amsterdam
stairs.
Broadway. Yeah, so you know.
Those stairs are no joke, man. But you know, a part of it, you know, it was rough, definitely, growing up in Polo Grounds. Especially, I'm a really light-skinned dude. There weren't a lot of Dominicans and Puerto Ricans to begin with.
No, not in the Polo Ground.
You know what I mean?
No.
So, but it was a great experience. I still have some of my closest friends from there. And again, the culture,
All
the
that culture
music, the
there, right?
food.
Absolutely.
You know, like I remember, like my first album that I bought was Puff Daddy's No Way Out. I mean, just calling him Puff Daddy, right?
Right,
Okay.
Puff.
That's the first one I went into
That was
the
the
store
heyday
and
of
bought.
Bad Boy.
Yeah, man. So it's like it's just such a big part of the way I speak. You know, I don't think I have a Dominican accent. I don't think I have. You know, I have like a New York Harlem accent.
Yeah, you don't even sound like
accent.
you know you're a immigrant.
Right. So yeah, man. It's just it's just a central part of my identity.
Now you tell us, Mr. Landon, how Harlem shaped you up.
So it's funny he mentioned Puffy. So my story is actually more similar to Puffy's. Originally from Harlem, 560 Riverside Drive, so 125 and 12th Ave.
Ooh.
And then
Grant's Tomb area right there,
right?
right?
Tomb, but I was in the Columbia University. How my dad worked at Columbia University. So what happened was my dad was big in government affairs and stuff, and he saw the crack epidemic coming. So he had 2 black boys, and my pops was like, "Yeah, something is not right." You know, and my dad loves Harlem. So we moved to Mount Vernon, like Puffy. Like people forget Puffy
Yes,
from
Yes,
Harlem.
absolutely. But he moved.
Same
They
thing.
moved.
But
Yeah,
he
they
moved
moved.
to Mount
Yeah.
Vernon, yes.
So I moved out to money earning Mount Vernon. Like I lived
Earning Mount
I lived
Vernon.
right up the
Yeah,
street
Heavy
from
D.
Heavy. I lived right up the street from Heavy D.
See, yeah.
I went to the same barbershop with him and CL Smooth. And then my story actually gets even more similar to Puffy because he went to Mount St. Michael for high school.
There you
I
go.
went to Fordham Prep in the Bronx. He went to Howard, Grand Indian graduate. I went to Morehouse.
Mm-hmm.
So the story, or my brother, you know, has a similar story. He went to Stepinac and then he went to Morehouse himself. So that my story is so Harlem, but we still went to church in Harlem. So we went to Abyssinian Baptist Church.
Mm-hmm.
So when I think of Abyssinian, I think the famous thing is people remember Reverend Butts on the Bone Thugs and Harmony. When I don't like, you know, I'm not against rap music. I'm against them thugs and him driving the steamroller over rap records. So I grew up at Abyssinian Baptist Church. My dad was at Columbia. My dad still had a property in Harlem. So I was in Harlem every weekend with my pops. So I fell in love with it. Going to Sylvia's, going to Wells Chicken and Waffles with Dr. Betty Shabazz, the widow of Malcolm X. So that is my attachment to Harlem. I've seen Harlem grow back. And then my brother moved back to Harlem. He bought a brownstone in like 2000. I came back in 2005 when I came back from college and was in grad school, and then my parents came back also. So even though we had left Harlem, we had all come back to Harlem.
We need that, man, because we need more black folks in Harlem, man. They leaving, man.
But I love Harlem.
Gentrification.
I ran for Harlem. I ran for office in Harlem. I ran for city council in Harlem in 2009. A lot of people know this, but I was on a TV show called Harlem Heights on BET.
Nice.
So my connection to Harlem is real and legit. But I'll be lying if I didn't say Mount Vernon also grew something in me. Mount Vernon is an amazing
You got the best
city.
of both worlds. You got
ain't nothing wrong with that.
suburbs,
Ain't
and you
nothing
still
wrong
got
with
to
that.
get the Harlem culture by coming to
100%. But Mount Vernon is a beautiful place that people need to understand the history of Mount Vernon too. Like, let's think about the early 90s too. Mount Vernon was running hip hop for a little small degree.
Yes.
My
All the big moguls,
Those guys coming out of there.
Heavy D was a big mogul. People don't
CL
understand
Smooth,
that he
Pete
was
Rock, and then you had Yonkers, you had DMX and Mary J. Blige, and then in Queens you had New Rochelle, you had Grand Poobah.
Yeah,
so,
it was big.
There was this culture that came out of that Southern Westchester, North Bronx area. So that helped shape me, man, and I think it gave me a balance, and I hope I make my people from Harlem proud. I mean, hell, my Twitter handle is Harlem the #4 days, because I still love Harlem. You know what I'm saying? So, but the crazy thing is now I live in the South Bronx. You know what I mean? Because I try to buy my property using the South Bronx.
What happens is we both don't live in Harlem anymore, but it's just like they could take you out of Harlem, they can't take the Harlem out of you.
Yeah, that's it. And it's straight up and down. That's what it is.
And it's just uptown, right? Like, especially being Dominican. Grew up in Harlem, but of course I had family all over the Heights.
Yeah.
Running around 181st, running around
Exactly.
Dykeman,
Yeah,
of course
man.
in the Bronx. I just think uptown is his own thing.
Yeah.
And it's his own culture, man.
I got love for the Bronx. So my thing about the Bronx was when I was in high school, going to Fordham Prep, was Fordham Road. So
Action.
That was my first experience. That was the first time you ran into some Puerto Ricans or some Dominicans.
It wasn't.
And I was like,
that wasn't the Fordham that road now that we
it was
talking about.
different.
It was a little bit different.
But there was nothing like a warm day
On Fordham
Fordham Road.
in the spring because
You
it was
see it
just
all.
like, oh,
Mad action all over the place.
So it
Fordham
just,
on 180 or 181st. What you taking?
So back then, so it's just funny because Harlem, I went to 125, 138, 137. I had my blocks. I never went to 181 as a kid.
Interesting.
I never went to Dyke. I never went
Right.
to Dykeman as a kid because it just wasn't my territory.
Of course,
Right,
of
so we
course.
talked about that. A lot of people were kind of like they kind of stayed in their like
stay where you knew.
section. Yeah, you
Yeah.
stay in section.
No, of
For
course.
half your life,
New
you
York
stay
is
in your
different.
section.
It was
Exactly.
different back
Now,
then.
like
Yeah.
me and him, we talked to somebody the other day, and like it's so free now. Like they're like, oh, we're going to a party in Brooklyn, and we're going to a party in Queens. It's like we couldn't go to parties in
No.
places out
No.
of our
Yeah.
comfort zones.
No.
No,
Dude,
people ask
just-
me like,
sorry.
how do you not know Brooklyn? And I was like, because it's mad far, and I didn't know anybody there to go there for. Like,
You couldn't just go to these places just because there was something going on there.
My mom's from Brownsville. We never went back to Brownsville.
It didn't work like that back then.
My mom was just like, nah.
It doesn't work
But he's
like
right.
that.
But then there was always these once in a while cultural centers though, because I always think of the skate key. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Okay.
So if you
Okay.
skate, you went to the skate key. 'Cause Mount
went to
Vernon
the
was close to
skate
skate key, Bronx. But even Harlem,
And
like, even because Harlem, you had two choices. You ever went to the skate key or you went to Empire. You know what I mean?
But
So
even going to skate key though was kind of like a roll in the dice. It was a gamble because back then, I would say like 95,
That's when that Blood and
95,
Crips thing that came in all of a
97,
sudden.
96 around there, like that little era. I used to b-boy, so I used to go to the skate key before they used to skate. Right before everybody used to skate, we was there b-boy. It's a little time, once that sun comes down, big homie, all the homies kind of come out and it gets
You
a
better
little
be
bit different.
situated.
Yeah, so you better be kind of like the part of the skating crew or something like
like
that.
they know you're
because-
just a b-boy and you're
Yeah.
coming in just to skate, something
yeah,
like that.
so
yeah.
it gotta kind of be like that.
or being some dudes from Mount Vernon, you know what I mean, rolling up, and they're like, "Yo, who are they?" But
Yeah.
but you just hit a key thing. 94, 95. What else happened in New York in that time? Suddenly, people forget 94, 95. Suddenly, Bloods and Crips came out
lot.
of nowhere.
A lot.
And it
New
was
York
like
was never about gangs before.
it was
that.
blocks. It was like
It was
you were
blocks,
from
it
a
was
block or
sections,
housing
yeah,
or a
neighborhood.
housing number, right?
Yeah.
Neighborhood.
So suddenly, when the Blood and Crips came in, people were like,
Whoa.
"We're not California. What is this?"
Exactly.
It was so confusing.
It
But
was the
was.
aftermath of crack in a lot of ways.
After that crap, but it was also Death Row and remember,
Yeah, it was a
West
lot.
Coast
Yeah.
Coast rap became big, but it was a sudden,
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
very sudden.
and so it was interesting to see that dynamic. But like I said, it's funny how we grew up in completely different areas to a degree or sections, but we
Similar
still had these.
experiences.
Yeah,
we had
you
these
still go
similar
to these
experiences.
places. So a lot of people would be afraid to come to skate key, but we right there in the center of it, right? Because we know how to kind of maneuver in these situations, and we kind of knew everybody in the situation. So you kind of knew who the big homie was, and they kind of, everything was kind of cool because it kind of moved in a manner like, without unspoken, you know what I mean? There was rules without having to be said,
unwritten
you know what I
laws.
mean? So it was like the guys from Mount Vernon, oh, those are the guys from Mount Vernon. They don't mean no harm. Those are the B-boys over there, but it's still, you still see the presence of the homies there.
Another thing I learned there too, and me and my boy was talking about it. We were like me and my boy. We were good basketball players, right? So the south side of Mount Vernon was tougher than the north side of Mount Vernon, where we lived. But we used to go down and ball on West Fourth, and the dudes knew who we were. But we also knew they were like, those are good kids. They're not knuckleheads.
Yeah,
we didn't get into trouble.
yeah.
Like we went to school. We just went there to play ball to get better at ball. And at the same time, though, when the sun was going down, they'd be like, "Yo, it's time for y'all to go home." So there was a code.
We
that's
spoke
kinda
about
going-
that
that's
back
going
then.
away.
Yeah, we spoke
there was
about
a
that
more
too.
code of conduct and edit, and there was just like etiquette, and it's just like people that weren't involved in the criminal lifestyle. The people and the OGs make sure that other people that weren't involved didn't get affected as much. Back then, they were like very mindful of that stuff.
Yep.
Agreed.
That's one thing I loved about playing basketball, man. It's like everyone could come together and play ball. Yeah, I mean, it gets rough on the courts, stuff like that. You play hard, but you knew who was who, and people would vouch for you simply on the fact that they played ball with you. It's like, nah, I know this kid. I play ball with him.
He's all right.
And since
Yeah.
you're involved in the sports aspects, you're impartial to all the other politics.
Yeah, it's
like
like,
these people are just
it's
here
cool.
to play
It's
ball.
cool. I
Exactly.
love that about basketball.
I'm just here to hit a couple jump shots and
Exactly.
and grab some rebounds.
So now that brings us all together to cannabis, right? So now when you walk in a room, right, another stoner sees you and go, "Oh, nah, he good."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Oh, that's Julio. Oh, he good. I smoke.
It's like an
he
unspoken, like
you know,
a tribe.
so
This
now-
guy's part of my tribe. He
So
smokes.
he's part of my tribe now. So now that's what's bringing us all together. That's what people don't understand. That's why culture is so important as far as this industry. The people in the industry or the corporate world in general don't understand that if they don't look at it in that aspect, that this is something that kind of unifies people. And if they don't look into that, they're never gonna win. You know what I mean? So they gotta kind of add us regardless whether they like it or not, because stoners, like especially in New York, we kind of trust whoever's selling us whatever they have, right? Because
Yes.
we don't.
Yes.
For a long time, we don't know what they're giving us, right?
Maybe blindly and naively.
Very
but-
bright, right? So when it comes to this now, this new industry, you kind of build something that people trust.
I don't think New Yorkers are gonna care about legal or illegal. You trust your dealer.
That's it. So
You smoke with your dealer half the times. It's like, hey, let's just
You know what
roll
I
up
mean?
real quick before you leave. Okay.
Right.
So,
'Cause you
so
know
it
he's
takes
cool.
a brand that they trust for them to
100%.
to follow. No matter
They're not
what they
gonna
have,
come
right?
over just because it's legal.
And
Why?
that's gonna be a sobering moment for some of the industry in the corporate cannabis when they try to come into New York.
I think
like
already not in New York, but in the rest of the country, due to the current situation of the downfall of the stocks and everything, I think they kind of learned that this year a little bit, like on a national
Yeah, in
scale,
2019
like
they learned.
basically like everybody
It was a
that
rough
tried
year.
to come in and buy the industry that has no knowledge of cannabis hasn't gone too well for them.
Yeah, it's not.
So
It
yes,
hasn't involved the culture and hasn't hasn't gone about it like you said in an attackful way, thinking about all aspects and just like I'm gonna throw money at it. It hasn't worked that simply for a lot of the people that I've seen.
I agree. 100%.
I agree with you, but I think because I've had a seat on both sides now, I think the key is going to be branding and branding reputation. And what I mean by that is branding is not just going to be marketing. So someone who's making big moves in California, for instance, is Jungle Brothers. Jungle Brothers is doing
Jungle Boys, you mean?
I'm sorry, Jungle Boys.
Oh, the Jungle Boys, yes.
So I
yes,
said Jungle
Boys.
Brothers. Jungle Boys are doing extremely well because they have patented a genome on their flower that has gotten a reputation that people love. Like I remember MedMen tried to buy them, and they were like, "Nah," they wanted a crazy number, and the MedMen said no, and they were like, "All right, we're good then," and we moved on. Cookies is kind of doing something similar.
Exactly.
So what happens is you can't skip on your cultivation because if you build up a bad reputation,
But
like
not to cut you
Canopy,
off, but both of those companies that you mentioned also at some capacity involved the culture.
agreed.
Well, all the way.
For sure.
They
get
went
what I'm
from
trying to say?
culture.
I got you.
Yes.
I got
They
you.
couldn't
Saying.
bypass that part.
Yeah.
I got you.
Can't.
I got you.
There's no successful brand, period, that's not built on trust. And that doesn't grab the early
that's what-
adopters
exactly.
from that particular industry. It is how every tech company has gotten successful. You grab the early adopters. That is the people who are willing, able, and want to be first in line when it comes to tech. And they go first in line with brands that they trust. You can't build a good brand without trust. And again, in cannabis, look, cannabis wouldn't even be an industry if it wasn't for our culture. You know, the reason why they called it marijuana, that's
Right.
come on, that's because
Propaganda, we
they
already
wanted
know.
to tie it to Latin communities in the south of Texas.
Yeah.
We built this industry. It wouldn't be popular without us. And you
And
cannot have
African
success without us.
and Latinos, aside from being probably type of consumers, have also been affected by it the most because all the
Yep.
propaganda was used against us.
Right.
I mean, whites use marijuana at the same, if not a higher clip than we do, but we represent 85% of all arrests, but represent only 5% of the legal cannabis industry. That has to change.
That goes into my next
Immediately,
question that I wanted to ask you guys. Two things. You guys are in the hemp industry. You guys have hemp processing. I want to know what you guys feel about the current status about that nationally in New York. And second of all, what do you guys think so the people out there can know? Like it says, like having some information, some people that went through the process like you guys about how is it for diversity and inclusion as far as minorities to get in positions like you guys are right now.
So in terms of hemp, what I'll say is that a lot of people pay attention to the product that we can smoke, that we can ingest. I think what people don't see is the opportunity that exists in hemp in so many other fields, so many other industries. And what I would encourage people is to really, really, really think about the plants and think about if you're in construction, you should be looking at hemp. If you're in product production around paint or any industrial supplies, you should be looking at hemp. If you've ever wanted to go into clothing, you should be looking at hemp because it makes a great fiber. There are going to be an incredible amount of opportunities in hemp, and I think that a disservice that we do in our community is not educate people on everything that the cannabis plant is. So that would be my point on hemp. Overall, in terms of getting into the position that we are, what I want to stress is like, I there's barriers of entry, but it can all be broken down by connecting with people in your community. At the end of the day, I think that we have everything that we need within ourselves to be successful in this industry. Again, look, I met Landon. He had the political knowledge. My boy Marvis has tremendous real estate background, right? We're going to meet people who have product knowledge. We're going to meet people who have all these industry knowledge. And if we come together and actually work together, we can have something really successful here. And the reason why it'll be successful, because these skill sets are all on the outside. You can buy these skill sets in the marketplace if you really want to, but you can't buy the cultural experience. You can't buy a love for the plant and for the product. And I think that that's what we bring to the table, and you need to bring that to the table. Find a way to participate. Even if you don't participate directly, you're going to make money being the lawyer, being the banker,
Absolutely.
being the designer. You know, you're going to make money being the person recording the media behind the camera, in front of the microphones.
Absolutely.
Like, find a way into this industry doing what you already know how to do.
The hemp industry is possibly going to change with the new legislation. I noticed in the bill today there is a mention of hemp cannabinoid being on a retail license structure. So that was kind of new.
What does that mean?
I don't know yet.
Right.
I'm still reading. the bill. I just got the bill
shit's
this.
wild.
I just got the bill this morning. So
And that's what it takes right there I'm glad that you mentioned that for the Happy Monkey world to know that in order to stand a chance, you have to be as due diligent as you are, constantly reading every step of regulation, legalization
Yes.
that is being changed on a weekly or monthly basis.
Absolutely. Like, even for me, I need a brother like you to, like, yo, call me up. Yo, brother, you ain't reading the bill. Look, this is what's going on.
No, yeah, right. No,
You know what I'm
that's it.
saying?
Like, the consumption lounge, they have very explicit language in it towards the lounges. I'm still a little confused on the difference on the processing license and cultivation and distribution license. I'm still trying to figure that out. So I have, if you see my PDF right now, I have like 7 colors: red, pink, green, yellow. Like,
Trying to figure out what's
this
what.
is really, I don't know, this is good for us, and this is
Right.
good for us, and wait, what the hell is this? And I have questions, and I have friends I call, like, who are other lobbyists and lawyers, like, yo, what does this mean? Or
Right.
what did they mean by this? And, so one thing that we're good at as a people, black and brown, we're good at being outraged, but we're not good at being engaged.
Boom.
So something that we need to
Very
do
well put.
is engage better and understand how to engage the process. That's all lobbying is knowing the ins and outs, how to engage the process. So it's like how we talked about the community boards
Yep.
and little political things. That's why voting is important. When people say me voting doesn't matter, yes, not just so you have to vote, but you need to know who you're voting for.
Yep.
Like, people don't know there's something called district leaders in New York.
Yep.
District leaders
And
vote
I was
on
gonna say
judges.
that people overlook
Yeah.
the local
That was
politics,
yeah,
which is the
so
most
that was one thing
affects
you
the most,
mentioned.
like, right?
That was one thing that
The
I
most
I
important.
remember that you mentioned at the Source 360 thing. It was a real simple situation, right? And you told this young lady, just get you and 4 of your friends.
Yep.
Get together with you 4 and your friends. Have a little party. Write all of you guys write letters to this person. All of you guys call this person. They will come out. They will talk to all 5 of you guys.
They will.
And whoever else you bring your family members, whoever, if you're there, he will come out and talk to you guys, and your voice will be heard.
Because so few people do that. So it's the organized organized minority is a political majority, and we're seeing it happen firsthand in Long Island right now when it comes to the legalization of marijuana. So if you look at if New Jersey's going to ballot, right? After all the political squabbling, they just said, "F it, we're putting this on the ballot and letting the people vote." I guarantee you, New Jersey is going to legalize marijuana at a staggering number. And politicians can be like, but I thought people didn't want this. Because what happened is like people can quietly vote for something because they don't want their neighbors to know that they're for this. You know what I'm saying? It's that quiet
They
suburban.
never gave them the opportunity before this.
But no, that's just there's this suburban house mother, with 2 kids who doesn't want to be judged by her
Exactly.
PTA.
Exactly.
That when she's stressed out from her 2 kids running around and all that, she might smoke a J just to put her feet back, like just how she used to drink a glass of Merlot, but now she'd rather just have a quick J, and then she works on her blog that she's making money to help pay her bills. You know what I mean? After
Exactly.
kids go to sleep.
And,
Yeah, and
and
the
politicians
church
also
folks.
only outreach to the people that they know that they can count on
For votes.
for votes. So if they don't think that they can count on you for votes, they're not going to reach out to you.
They don't waste their time. A good example of that is the Bronx. The Bronx is the lowest voting county. Like, we have 5 times the amount of people of Staten Island, but we barely outvote Staten Island. So when it comes, you can watch it in elections. When it comes to the city elections, the city mayor elections and and comptroller and public advocate, they don't focus on the Bronx, Manhattan, Queens, Brooklyn. And then look, they actually will go to Staten Island, depending if you're kind of like a Republican or a moderate. They go to Staten Island before the Bronx.
That's crazy.
And then, but if the Bronx organizes, you'd be like in my block, man. I have changed my block because I just know how to engage. I've gotten my trash pickup on the block cleaned up, the trees pruned, and it's the same thing with marijuana.
So you're saying that these things, if people from our communities did these things,
Simple things,
we would have a good chance of being included in this new.
Because it's like, yes, we're very good at getting in front of the cameras and yelling, but a lot of the politicians know it's like it'll blow over. It's about engaging the process in the long haul. This is the example I give to anybody. Just voting is like getting a girl's phone number. You got the number, that's great. But you got to call her. You got to text her. You got to take her out, buy her flowers.
Absolutely.
You got to do this. It's the same thing with politicians.
Great analogy.
You got to court them. When you court them, to Julio's point, you get their attention because you ever get those polls on the phone?
Yes.
You're like who you gonna vote for? I always do those polls. Why? Because your one polling represents like 1,000 people. So I can help change what people think on a process just by answering that poll, a political poll. They're literally using you to be an example, but they call me all the time because
of your zip code, right? Because it's
not just my zip code. I'm a triple prime voter. So when they look at Landon Days' voting record, I vote every primary, general election. I do not miss an election. So they know, his point, a politician knows I'm going to vote. So a polling agency always calls my number because they can count on me as a stable voter. So to Julio's point, the more we do that on the local level, small level, make our politicians work more, the more we will get.
Yeah, because what people need to
It's very important information for the community to know.
Voting. What people need to realize is that sometimes you feel voting is obsolete when you put yourself as one in the context of the 13 million people in New York City or all the people in the United States. But the reality is that not everyone does come out to vote. So when you do vote, you represent way more than just yourself. And the more that you come out, the more that you vote, the more that you organize around particular causes or a particular politician, the more they actually, like he said, listen to you, cater to you, and can deliver the things that you want them to deliver on. And you can hold them accountable to it as well.
And we have something else coming up this year, too, the census.
Yeah, that's going to be huge.
I mean, not to dwell into a whole political argument, but the census is important. Like, you guys are Dominican, right? So there's some people that are here illegally, right, or not documented, and they're afraid to fill out that form because they're like, with Trump in office, I'm scared they're going to use it against me. But they're here. They're using services here. They're going to public school here. We need them to fill out that census because we need New York City to get the true representation of our population. So we get the tax money and the services that our city deserves, right? Because we give so much money. Our city gives the most money in the entire country in taxes, right? But services are limited to us. So that's why engaging census, all of this stuff in the aggregate matters. You might not be able to see the forest through the tree, but it really does matter in the macro and micro sense. So we can use cannabis to get people engaged. We can use cannabis to get young people involved. Absolutely. And the more we do with that from cultures and saying it in Spanish and English and French, New York City has more languages than any place in the world. We have a chance to really conform things and use cannabis as a political, social, and friendship, family. Like, it really can be a communal thing. And
that's what cannabis has always been. Cannabis has always been political. It's always been social. It's always been for driving change, So it's like, again, if you remain true to it, you can live and really have it, accomplished within you and accomplished within the community, the things that you want to see happen.
Yeah, you guys heard it first here in Happy Monkey World. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an election year. If you want to be included, if you want to have your due right and voice heard.
Yes, sir.
There's a lot of elections this year. There's actually a lobby day coming up this Tuesday that me and Ramon will be attending. You need to let these politicians hear your voice because it makes a big difference. As these gentlemen said, they're prime examples of what minorities can get when they understand how to work this legal and political system correctly and get our due that we deserve. But as Landon said, you got to do your part.
Absolutely. And guys, I'd like to thank you guys for having us on board. It means a lot to us. We know you guys are the culture, and we're just, trying to be a part of it. And if anyone out there, thank you for your support. Please check out our website, www.livepif, livepif.com. That's livepif.com. And follow us on IG and Twitter at LivePiff, LivePif. You can also check us out, Plan Inspired Future Piff, on Facebook and LinkedIn.
That was perfect.
Now we gotta ask you guys the $1 million question. We ask every guest that's ever been on here, and you guys are some young professional entrepreneurs, so we really value your opinion.
Absolutely. Let's see.
We always ask every guest that comes on here, if you had to describe HappyMunkey, the brand, the movement, everything you guys know about it, and you had to describe it all in one word, what would that word be? Start with you, Julio.
Oh, man, I have to go with the first impression that I had coming in here, and it was just guts. When I came in here, I was like, these guys have guts. They came in here, they created the experience that they wanted. They brought people together to do this out in the open. What everyone's been hiding behind closed doors, these guys had the guts to bring it out. I'm telling you, when I walked in here, I was like, this is what it can be. It was, I read a lot about cannabis. I walk into dispensaries. We're working to live the life, walk the walk, talk the talk. And I felt when I walked in here, I was like, oh man, this is it. Like, we're here. This thing is gonna happen. People are creating a lounge in the Times Square area. Like, this is the time, man. So I really appreciated that experience. Man, I think you guys are doing awesome.
Thank you for those kind words, Julio. We appreciate you. How about you, Mr. Landon?
I think it's, history repeats itself, right? So 100 years ago, we had the prohibition of alcohol, so 1920, right? Mm-hmm. In 2020, it's the prohibition of marijuana. So what did you have back in 1920? You had speakeasies. So this is the very definition of a speakeasy, a nondescript spot that you walk up into. It's chill. You had no idea I had no idea what I was walking into, but there was no issues. People were chill. Speakeasy. It's just easy, speaking with your people, smoking a joint, smoking a blunt, kick back, relax, talk. It was diverse. It had a true sense of New York. Like, you saw white, black, Spanish, Asian, young, old, rich, poor, middle class, working class. Like, that's something that you don't get to see that often in New York anymore. And I hope we don't lose that with legalization, because suddenly, people like to stick with their own class sometimes. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping that the mix,
the unification
stays, because to me, that is when New York is its best. Mm-hmm. One thing, yes, I know crime is down to historic lows. I know New York was a lot grimier 20 years ago. But there was something about that we were all in it together that is kind of missing. We don't have that we're all in it together anymore. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's hurting New York more than what anybody. That's why, those these multi-million-dollar condos are empty up in the city. You know what I mean? That's not right. When people being pushed out of their homes have been here for the last 30 years. So, it just brought back something. So speakeasy is the word I would use.
Thank you for those kind words, Mr. Landon.
Yeah, very, very,
it means
very
a lot from you guys,
because
you guys are some amazing entrepreneurs. We appreciate all you guys stopping by here and gracing us with your presence, your insight, and your knowledge, because we all aspire to inspire. And I always tell, I talk to a lot of the big corporate people, and I always say that it's important for people that look like us, especially like you guys, to be in these positions, because when the community that's listening right now hears it from Julio and Landon, they know it's feasible. They know it's possible, because people that look like them, that come from where they come from, have done it. If not, it feels unattainable, and they don't even feel like they can participate. So it means a lot to have, some people like you guys, some, natives and minorities to be in these positions to really, open the way for the rest of the community.
Yeah, man. I really appreciate you having us and creating a voice for this. And if there's anything that this audience takes away, is just take away that it is attainable and go after it, man. Because I think that the more of us are going after it, similar to voting and the outreach, the more of us that are in this space trying to do something positive, they can't ignore us. And they can't deny all of us, right? So we need to figure out a way to break in and then turn back around and say, all right, how do I use the lawyer of color, right? Like, how do I use the branding agency of color? And how do I use my ability to get into this industry to now continue building out other businesses and other minority-owned businesses especially?
And that was a great point that people overlook. Everybody that wants to get in this industry is very important, as we're doing here. If we don't support each other, we don't stand a chance.
Right.
So, high tide raises all the boats. We're all on the same tide, just different boats. And as long as we keep that perspective, it's going to be hard to exclude us from this amazing, transfer of wealth and all kinds of things that are about to happen.
Yep.
Yeah, man. So, guys, that was very insightful, inspirational, and motherfucker, it just felt good, motherfuckers. You know what I mean? I'm glad y'all came here, man.
Yeah,
It was a
man.
good
Thanks for having us,
conversation.
for sure.
It got to like it was this. I think this show right here was basically what we were kind of like going for, especially this episode right here. It was basically corporate, professional, hood cannabis. You know what I mean? I wanted to mix it all. You know what I mean? And this is basically what we aspire to do as far as, Happy Monkey. That's what the brand does. Bringing all these aspects together, because in all reality, we all need each other. We live on the same planet, guys. You know what I mean? So thank you guys for coming. Let's lead these guys with a round of applause, because this shit was dope.
Thank you for having us.
Julio Landon for blessing
Absolutely.
the boulevard with your presence.
It was dope. It was dope for having you guys. Everybody definitely tune in. It was a motherfucking blessing with my brother Vlad here on the boulevard with Landon and Julio. Everybody definitely love, light, and a lot of respect, and smoke cannabis, motherfuckers.
Till the next episode, guys, we wish you guys health, wealth, and cannabis in abundance. Peace.
What's good, everybody? This is your nigga Ralph, trying to keep you fresh with the info from Happy Monkey every single podcast. You already know what it is. If you haven't followed us yet, follow us on Instagram at HappyMunkey_ or Happy Monkey Goodies. Now remember, that's monkey with a U. Also, if you haven't checked us out, we're on YouTube. So check out our channel, Happy Monkey TV. Keep us current, live, and everything with the culture.